Welcome back to the Ben Mulroney Show. Welcome back to This Week in Politics with Warren and Chris. And before we move on to another topic, let's finish up with what's the drama that's been happening in Ottawa. Warren, based on everything that you've seen, do you believe the rumors that there is some sort of palace coup or some sort of push against Pierre Poilievre going on right now?
Palace coup internally, no, but external events are definitely conspiring against him. Like, he's in some trouble. Yeah. He's losing caucus members at a time when he needs them to be railing against the budget. So instead of the focus on the budget, which in the view of a lot of people was a bit of a wet firecracker, they're talking, we're talking about this, the numbers and the intrigue and the cloak and dagger stuff going back and forth. So it's not helpful to him. Is it fatal to him in the review? I don't know. At the end of the day, I think it's like the movie Gladiator. I picture Joaquin Phoenix there with his thumb up or thumb down. But in that case, it's Stephen Harper. Stephen Harper is the guy who's going to decide whether Pierre Poilievre lives or dies and whether the Conservative Party moves on. And I guess the jury's still out. He's still backing Poilievre, but he can't be impressed by all of the nonsense that's been going on.
Chris, I see you bob in your head.
Yeah, listen, I think, ultimately, Ben, it's going to come down to what happens in January. I think we'd be fooling ourselves if we didn't just accept the fact that when Pierre Poilievre won the leadership 3 years ago, there were members of that party that did not like him. There were members of that caucus that did not support him. And so seeing somebody cross the floor for a Mark Carney-led government that unquestionably has certainly leaned center-right compared to where Justin Trudeau was, I'm not surprised he might be able to pick off one or two. Ottawa's obviously buzzing that there might be 2 or 3 more that might cross the floor, but I think it's going to come down to that leadership review for Pierre in January. And unless something drastically changes from now until then, you got to remember this guy sold, more memberships in the leadership race a couple of years ago than the party's ever sold in the history of the party. Yeah. He has a iron grip on the base of the Conservative Party of Canada. And so him losing it, I don't think so. Is there some, turmoil inside a caucus? Maybe a little bit, but I think, when it comes to the party and a palace coup, it couldn't be farther from the case.
I was at an event where Ben very ably led an event for Ben Abreth Canada last night, and I was in the crowd, and I'll tell you guys, I had a whole bunch of people. It was like I was the father confessor, and they come up to me and say they were Tories, and they just wanted me to know that they voted for Jean Charest, and they think that Jean Charest would have been a better pick. I had a whole lot of people saying that. So I didn't anybody defending Pierre Poilievre's honor. Quite the opposite. The people I'm hearing from, the readers I'm hearing from, the people getting in touch with me through Post Media are saying that they're not happy with the direction of the party because, what Chris says is true. Sure, he sold 1 million memberships, but that was a long time ago. The reality now is he lost his own seat and he lost the election. And that's what Tories that I know are thinking about.
Well, one guy who didn't lose a whole lot of elections was your former boss, Jean Chrétien. And I wonder if he were around, if he were in office today and he had a premier on the West Coast that said, I know that we said we're going to build projects of national importance, but the West Coast is closed for business. Go sell crazy someplace else. We're all stocked up here. What would Jean Chrétien do?
Well, he would sit down. I can do my imitation of him, but I probably shouldn't. And he would say, Mr. Eby, it's true. Under the Constitution, within your own province, you're allowed to decide where pipelines go. That's true. But because it crosses a provincial border and because, we need it as a country, I get to decide that through something called the Canada Energy Regulator. And I think it's good for the country, and I think we should do that. Chrétien is a pro-pipelines prime minister. He was certainly when I worked for him. So, yeah, I think he would be saying to Mr. Eby, look, this is not a fight that you should be picking because you're not just picking this fight with Alberta, you're picking this fight with me. We need it. Clearly we need it in light of the Trump threat, in light of what's happening to our economy nationally. We need pipelines. We're a resource country. We shouldn't be leaving our resource in the ground. And I think that's what he would be saying to David Eby.
And what is David Eby thinking there, Chris? Because he's he's in a minority situation. I don't know. I wouldn't say that the mandate that he has allows him to speak with such bluster. What do you think he's thinking?
I think he's thinking the same way the BC NDP have thought for years. regardless of a minority or a majority government, Ben. I think he's, that party is staunchly anti-development, anti-pipeline of any capacity. And so he's just, he's talking to his base. And, for a guy that could be in an election at any point, because he's I think it's a 1 or 2 seat difference between a minority and a majority right now. He's politicking, he's electioneering. And so,
but do we have time for this right now? I thought it was all hands on deck. I thought it was we're all got to row in the same direction. I thought everybody had to be on Team Canada. Well, I mean, it was 6 months since the last election, and this is the kind of a pushback that
But I just want to take issue with what Chris said. Like it's not true that every New Democrat is against developing resources. Rachel Notley was pro oil and gas. She really was, and she paid a price with her own party for it. But that's the choice a New Democrat has got. Am I going to be a sensible, mature New Democrat premier, or am I going to be an idiot? And Eby is on the bubble right now. Which way is he going to go? It's like clearly the country needs this. British Columbia needs this. Of course,
Chris, we saw him jettison of what had been gospel for that party in the last election, which was the entire insanity around safe supply in that province. They threw that away, and because they knew that was going to lose them the election. So. Could he have a late game conversion later on? Possibly, but again, do we have time for the politicking right now? We need pragmatism. We need people understanding that there is no time to waste.
Of course, Ben, I don't disagree with you. I disagree with Warren in the sense that a British Columbia New Democrat's different than a New Democrat trying to win in Alberta. I mean, Wab Kinu's been pro-pipeline. I think it's different when you're the last line of defense for the pipeline. Like when you're literally the last province that can say no to this and you're a New Democrat, I think it puts you in a different position in terms of the stance you take. But we went through a general election where the prime minister himself couldn't decide really whether he was pro-pipeline or not then. And so when we talk about, do we need to be pragmatic? Absolutely. Are we being pragmatic? I don't think so. I think you look at what Warren said about what Chrétien would have said to Eby. Well, why isn't Prime Minister Carney saying that to Eby? Why is he not making it crystal clear? We need this for national security, for our economy, and just for our economic wealth and security as a whole. And so we could be having those conversations. I don't think it should be left up to one of the 10 premiers to block it. But until we see leadership out of Ottawa, that is his constitutional right to at least say it's not coming through here, ship it east.
Warren Kinsella, Chris Chapin, thank you so much, as always, joining us on Friday. It's a real high point for me. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekends.
You did good last night, Ben.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching the show. Now, if you enjoyed what you saw, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode of The Ben Mulroney Show.